This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hey there, it's Brian Sebastian, movie reviews and more. Obviously, if it's Tuesday, we are live as usual. Show 128, show number 46. No, show number 47. We're only a couple shows away from 2 years straight of live shows. I'm happy about that. And this is my last trip to Las Vegas for the year. I'm happy about that too. Safely, still haven't gotten COVID, not sick, no rundown, taking my vitamins, which I never took before. So it's all these are a first. So I'm happy about that. So as I would say, also, it's Giving Tuesdays. You have to give to your favorite charities. You have to give to those people that need help out there because there's a lot of people suffering. We know a few of them. Our friend Yvette Friedman, she's stuck in Western North Carolina. Our friend Roger Lehet is still out there. He's helping and doing a lot of stuff. Vanessa will clue us in on what's going on with Roger. And we're going to talk about those other things. So while we wait for Howard Wiggins, the dapper man, to come in from Brentwood, Tennessee, you know what? The person who is here, Chef Rachel Roberts, the real Rachel Roberts. She's going to talk about that. She's going to talk about this story. It's funny. I'm still laughing about that. And this lady I've been trying to get for a long time. I like talking to her because she makes me laugh. She's just warm and friendly, but she's a go-getter, and it's always about women and empowerment. I love that. And if you're listening to us, it's Vanessa Kelly. And so here's the thing about this. Obviously, we're live on Talk 4 TV, Talk 4 Media, K4 HD Radio, and streaming live on over 100 outlets around the world. So with that, let's talk about this. So look at that. Rachel's got her friends chiming in as usual. Eddie Gilly. I don't know who that is, but I'm sure she's going to say that. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, and the dapper Howard man, Howard Wiggins just stopped in. And so Howard, you'll be happy. You and Rachel are going to get your mask in January. I'm happy about that for both of you. So that leaves me, the only one that needs to get my skin done. So, but you guys first, because you guys are most important. So with this, let's kick this off first. Rachel, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Let's talk about you first before we get to Vanessa. Let's make her feel wonderful. Rachel, take it away.
Okay. So I am Rachel Ann Roberts, and I'm a little, I call myself a chef. I've done cooking shows. I have a little morning show called Coffee Talk, and comes on every morning, Monday through Friday, anytime between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. or maybe even noon sometimes. But it's a lot of fun. I just, talk about whatever. And I do podcasts. I've been working with Brian for, several years on movie reviews and more. I really enjoy it. And a couple other podcasts too. But always involved with something. So, I had an interview. Brian, you want me to tell this story about last?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, talk about this.
It's very funny. I had a request to be on the radio for an interview. These people wanted to interview me. And so it was 89.1 FM, Ken's FM. And so 6 months ago, they booked it. And I was like, wow, this is way in advance. This is Brian style. Brian, he books people like that. So, for the last 6 months, these people have done a really good job of letting me know, like, okay, you got 4 more months. You're going to be on 9 p.m., blah, blah, blah. And they even sent me a script and everything. And they send it through my Facebook Messenger. So they know who I am, certainly, right? They see me, my show every morning on Coffee. They have to have some clue, like, who I am. So anyway, you've got 25 minutes, call in. You've got 5 minutes, call in now. I call in, and like 1 minute before I call in, my friend of mine sends me a message, and he was listening in to the previous interview that they were doing, so he could get an idea of what these people are like. And he says, Rachel, they're talking about you, and they're mentioning these movies that you've been in, and you have not been in these movies. I think that they think you're someone else. And I'm reading this, and they're pulling me in, and I'm like, oh dear God. And so like 2 minutes into this, they're like, so tell us about these horror movies that you've been in. And I'm like, I cannot. So I was like, I think you have somebody else. I do coffee talk. And I was like, and I feel so bad for this other Rachel Ann Roberts that is running around. She doesn't even get the interview, right? Like, and these people they had all these questions for me. God bless them. We had to struggle through the entire interview, and they didn't know who I was. And the guy was like, 3 minutes in, and he goes, we got 27 minutes to go. I was like, oh my God. He's like, we got 14 minutes to go. I was like, well, this is brutal. I'm thinking this is the worst thing ever. And then at the end, two of the other co-hosts were sending me little messages saying it went great. They were like, no, we love you. You should read the chat room on the side. People are talking and laughing, and they thought you were great. I said the F word in the middle of it, and the guy was like, it's radio, keep it PG. But I don't know what happened. I was talking to this pro wrestler, and out flew the bad word, and the guy was like, oh God. It was tragic. Anyway, the guy, one of the co-hosts, he loved it. And he said, I absolutely adore you. I want to be your guest on Coffee Talk. And I'm like, well, come on, let's do it tomorrow morning. I don't have to wait 6 months on my show. You can come right on.
That was great. And you had a great conversation with him, didn't you?
We did. I told this guy, it's, Coffee Talk is about 10 minutes long tops. He got on and he talked for 33 minutes. A movie buff guy. Brian, you would love this guy. Passionate about films. We got to have him on.
And we are going to have him on. So he's going to be fascinated with this.
Yeah, he's director Scott Hand. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And with that, so Howard, do we have sound with you today? No storms in Tennessee?
Yeah, we got storms. Well, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, he sounds good. I'm always excited when we can have clear Howard. All right, Howard, tell us who you are. Tell Vanessa who you are. Go ahead.
I'm Howard Wiggins Interior Design. My father was Little Roy Wiggins, played steel guitar for Eddie Arnold. I've got a style and design called Stacked and Layered. I'm going to be in a movie called Without Warning. You can watch me on Passion TV. I play a billionaire. My father made me marry a billionaire. That's on that one. Let's see what else. I got some design advice today. People always say they want to follow the trends and be something that's classic. If you're doing a trend, that's not classic. That's why it's called trend. Trend is being original, doing exactly what you like. It looks good and it's different. So it's like an original piece of art. You want to be special. You don't want to be like everybody else. So, kind of like me. So that's it.
So Vanessa, we get a chance to talk to you about what you do, why you're Roger's right-hand man, or Roger is your right-hand man, which I think is more appropriate. Let's talk about Unforgettable Fire, because these wooden stoves, really not wooden, but really spectacular. The Katydid and the Kimberly. Let's talk about why we chose these a couple years ago. Environmentally friendly, sustainable, and very, very good for when you have emergencies and things like that. And also the chimney sweeping business, which has taken off, because you know what's going on with all these stuff, don't you?
Yeah, well, in October of 2012, I believe it was, the Kimberly stove was launched along with Unforgettable Fire as a business entity. And I had read about the Kimberly stove in a tiny house blog. I was living in California at the time. Housing was very expensive coming from the Midwest. I knew that if I had a roof over my head, it was going to have to be a tiny one. I saw the stove and I fell in love. Roger didn't want to talk about any kind of a special deal. I build websites, and he had the worst website I'd ever seen online.
I forgot about that.
He will never let me forget that I actually told him that. It's like, I can help you. I can help you. No. He did put me on an email list. We stayed in touch for about 1.5 years. Kimberly went through EPA certification, UL listing. I came back to him. I was going to write a blog post about the Kimberly stove and try to get the word out. And I had never burned. I called myself at that time a wood stove virgin because I had never burned a wood stove. I just know I needed this stove for a tiny house that I've never built. But anyway, that's how I hooked up with Roger. We had a 4-hour conversation. 10 minutes into the conversation, I said, I think I'm supposed to come to Vashon and help you. And I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my place to live. When I lose that job, I have nothing to risk. I'll help you for 3 months. So I packed my car, left Northern California, went to Washington, and for a 3-month volunteer position. And I'm still with him almost 12 years later. And we now have 3 stoves instead of just 1.
And what was it that you fell in love with about this stove?
Oh, it's the cutest little stove. Kimberly is stainless steel and it's round. It looks very Scandinavian. But what I really liked about it was the fuel efficiency and the clean burn and the fact that it was tiny, but it put out a lot of heat. It's very efficient. And I was living in Redwood Forest at the time when I first started talking with Roger. Very thick canopy. It never got sun. I was cold summer or winter. It didn't matter. And I just knew I needed a wood stove. So that's how it all started.
So does it run on wood?
It's a wood burning stove. Not a pellet stove, but there are pressed logs that are just compressed sawdust that are really.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the new one, Cricket. It's the biggest of the 3, and that's Roger's living room.
Nice.
So we're just launching that. But Kimberly's a cute little stainless steel one. And that's what kicked us off. We put them in RVs, tiny houses. We put them in 3-story McMansions. That's in a big old timber frame in a bedroom.
Hey, Vanessa, talk about how it got the female's name Kimberly and Katydid.
Oh, that's a great story. Well, Roger had owned a wood stove business for about 25 years. He did had a really good business going. Started as a sweep and then started a retail where he's selling wood stoves and doing installations. And 2008 recession hit, and he was a little overextended with some additional products that they'd taken on, like hot tubs and so on, and nobody was buying anything because of the recession. So the business went bankrupt. And he couldn't pay his rent, so he ended up moving his family onto a boat. Roger had a lot of pride. It's like, if I can make my own way in life, I will. And so he was on the boat, and that worked fine until winter came, and he had a stepdaughter who was about 9 or 10 at the time. And she said, Daddy, I'm tired of being cold. And so Roger had to come up with something. He cut out the cabinetry in a boat that they were living on. Nothing would fit in there. So he had to create something. And a woman on the island, Vashon Island, where he lived at the time, heard about what he was doing. And her and her husband said, hey, you need to make this thing look pretty, because it was pretty ugly, and I have photos to prove it. You need to make it look pretty, and you need to get a patent on it. So they took Roger to a patent attorney, paid for the search, and her name was Kimberly. And Roger said, well, I guess I'll name the stove, honor her. Katydid was the second stove. He named that after his mother, Katie, who always did for others. So Katydid is the second stove. And Cricket, I don't know where that name came from. I guess I've never asked him, but Katydid Katydid is an insect as well. Maybe cricket came out of that somehow. But it was a K word. We had to do the K thing. That's Katydid right there. And I have that stove in my house. And
they are beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Does a really, really good job at heating very efficiently.
How much do they run?
Well, we sell our stoves as a package. The stoves themselves are $39.95, which is a little on the high end of the market. The package would include the pipe, and the pipe that you would need would depend on your residence. If you're in a 3-story McMansion, you're going to need one set of, pipe system. If you're in an RV, you need a different set of pipe. So, I mean, there's certain basic components, but your package price is going to depend upon what pipe is required for your specific structure.
And where does the smoke go?
Well, there's very little smoke that'll come out the chimney. The EPA started out with 7.5 grams per hour when Kimberly was certified, and Kimberly was tested at 3.2 grams, which is very clean. When Roger got onto the business, he said the wood stoves were kicking out about 80 grams per hour. And the smoke would burn his lungs when he'd walk to the bus in the morning to go to school. So things have cleaned up a lot in the industry. Well, then the EPA decided to reduce emission standards to 4.5 grams per hour, which is Washington State. Still pretty good, and Kimberly still was under that. And then they reduced the emissions to 2.0 grams. We introduced Katydid 2 years later, and Katydid was tested at 1.9 grams. When you're operating the stove correctly and burning dry wood, which is 20% moisture or less, that's the industry standard for all wood stoves, you don't see smoke coming out the chimney.
Oh, okay.
You'll see the heat waves, but you won't see smoke.
And then what about cleaning? Is it easy to clean, and how often do you do that? Like,
I clean my chimney twice a year. I could probably clean it once a year. But I do clean it twice a year because it's so easy. I don't even have to get on a roof. I'm not going to get on a roof at my age. Obviously, I'm not a young spring chicken anymore.
But you're still beautiful.
Oh, thanks. I clean my chimney from inside the house. It's not a particularly messy job, and it takes me about 30 minutes, including the chimney, or including the cleanup. So it's not, there's really no excuse for somebody to have a chimney fire. It's something that you can keep clean yourself.
And besides heating your home, you can also cook stuff. What can you do?
We have a cook stove top on all of the stoves because our wood stoves are what they call gasification wood stoves. So there's 2 combustion zones. A regular wood stove is going to burn the wood directly, and that will create the heat. We burn the wood really slow and smoky, which would be a bad thing in any other wood stove, but then we reburn the smoke, and it's the second combustion burning the smoke as fuel that creates the heat. So our stove tops tend to be hotter than other wood stoves. Kimberly easily can reach 1,000, maybe 1,500 degrees. You could burn your food if you turned your back. So you might need to put a trivet on that stove top. Katydid, consider it like a slow cooker, like a crock pot. It'll cook all day, but it'll get the job done. You can certainly fry bacon on it. There's a video of our Canadian distributor up there with his buddy frying bacon on the top of the stove. My stove top temperatures on my Katydid easily run 350, but if I push the stove, I've gotten as high as 650 degrees on it, which, with a Dutch oven, a baking temperature for most things in my electric oven would be 350. So put a Dutch oven on Katydid and you could bake in there. You may need a few extra minutes. Cricket is, you could probably hit about 850 degrees. We had a chef at the Mother Earth News Fair a few years ago that was cooking on all 3 models. I think he did that 2 years at least, maybe 3 years in a row. And Roger said, well, what's your favorite stove? And he said, well, it's really not a fair question because they're all different. You know, if I want a 20,000 BTU stove, like a gas burner on, you know, a range, I would cook on Kimberly. But if I need a slow, steady temperature, I cook on Katydid. And Cricket is, you know, kind of in between there, but keeps this temperature more even than the other 2. So they all have their place. They'll all get the job done. And we were invited to the 2018 wood stove design contest. I was there with Roger. We were cooking salmon on the top. Roger was generating electricity from the thermoelectric generators. We were heating water. He was playing his guitar from burning wood. It was pretty cool.
So does on the sides, do they get hot too? I mean, do you have to kind of like, do you want to, like, if you had a kid or a child, would you want them to like stay away, maybe put something around it, or, you know?
Well, people ask about that periodically, and people also ask about pets. A child may touch the wood stove once. It will never happen again. Now, I didn't grow up with wood. Obviously, I told you when I showed up at Roger's doorstep, I was a wood stove virgin, never having burned a wood stove before. But I did grow up with the oil, like a one room heater. It was number 2 diesel. Excuse me. And excuse me. And you know, we were little kids. We never once burned ourselves. Maybe we did it once, but we didn't do it twice.
See, the great thing about Vanessa is when people call in, this is the service that they will get. So, Rachel, every question you asked, this young lady knows all the answers. How often do you get that? And that's one reason why they sell it. It's all personable, and that's what I really liked about her or Roger. Anytime I want to call them, I always get them. How often do you get service like that anymore? And the answer is you don't.
Yeah.
That's why they're special. And that's why when Roger called in, when he was helping the National Guard 2 weeks ago with all the stuff cutting up wood, a lot of these clients are going to be wanting a lot of these things because they need them, especially where he is in little Switzerland area in Western North Carolina. Right, Vanessa?
Yeah, Roger is in the hardest hit area. He's not in the worst of the worst, but it's pretty bad. The death toll and so on, I don't think the media is fully reporting it. And from what I'm reading on the local pages, it's because a lot of people haven't been identified. So until they're identified, they're not part of the statistics. It's just a real tragedy. Pets, there are 2 Facebook pages that I've been following. One is, I think it's called Western North Carolina Hurricane Helene check-in. And then there's another Swannon. No, I can't even pronounce it. It's one of the towns that basically got washed off the face of the map. There's a local, I think it was on the first one I mentioned. There's a photo of the Rainbow Bridge. You've probably, any pet lover knows what the Rainbow Bridge is. That's where the pets cross and they wait for you to cross after passing to the other side. And I imagine that Rainbow Bridge is somewhere in Asheville. I don't know, it wasn't mentioned. But the amount of collars and leashes on that bridge was just staggering. It was just jaw-dropping. And then you think that the human toll that corresponds to that, it's pretty tragic. Amazing stories that I woke up I knew the hurricane was coming in. I had no idea. And I really don't think Western North Carolina had an idea of what was in store for them. But Roger didn't check in with me on Friday. I didn't know at the time, but he was out cutting up all of the trees with one other guy on the Blue Ridge Parkway so that the National Guard could haul them away. And on Saturday, Roger texted me to let me know what was going on. He might even give me a brief phone call. And that's when I found out, and I got on the local Facebook pages because Roger couldn't tell me what's going on. We didn't have cell service. We couldn't text photos, no video, nothing. The only way I really knew how bad it was to go into the local Facebook pages. And, you know, roads, entire roads wash away, bridges. These people are up in the mountains. They're totally cut off. I read the first heartbreak story. It had a happy ending, but there was a woman with a 4-year-old in a big Airbnb way up in the mountains someplace, way back behind some winery. She had no cell, no electric, no heat. This 4-year-old, a husband and 2 dogs, and they'd been without water for 2 days. Well, what did they say? You can live 3 days without water. And she says, I need somebody to help us. You know, she was able to get a message out on Signal app. Who knows who saw that and was able to help her. But I read later that they were rescued, and that would be a helicopter rescue. And private helicopters came from all over the Northeast, the Southeast. They were doing the first rescues in the mountains and getting people oxygen that, were medically dependent. They were getting water. They were pulling people out. I think the National Guard came later, from what I understand. The National Guard landed a Chinook helicopter 5 minutes from Roger's house on at least 2 occasions that I'm aware of, and brought in supplies. Mule packers came in with strings of mules. I'm aware of the Mule Packer Ranch in North Carolina had at least 1 or 2 strings going. There was a mule packing team up in Eastern Tennessee somewhere too. I saw some video. The mules could go where not even an ATV could go, or an electric bike or anything like that. You went back to the 1800s, literally, because there's just no way to get through some of these roads.
And again, this is why the Katydid and the Kimberly and the Cricket are very, very helpful, because you don't need anything to start them up. And you can put them on anything. And that's one reason why we chose them going back to 2018, 2019. So that's important. And I have one of those. I have the Katydid. I'm very, very happy with that. And they were gracious enough just to send it to me. So I always talk about these things, and I'm glad that they're part of what we do. Hey, Howard, let's talk about what's happening with you now. So talk about what room you're in and what are you wearing? Because what's going on with things now, you never know what's happening with everybody,
I went shopping the other day. I got about 5 new coats, and I'm in the entryway, and let's see, you can't see it behind me. I've got a picture of Elizabeth Taylor with Elton John that was given to me by Elton John's interior designer, which I am personally. And so it's all hand photographed. That's down below. It's just my entryway. That's it.
So Eddie, obviously you might not be able to see it, Howard, but Eddie says your audio is choppy, which is what we know. But he wanted to know, is your dad Roy or Ray? And we obviously know it's little Roy Wiggins. That's who his dad is.
Little Roy Wiggins. Ray is my uncle.
See.
Ray Wiggins is my uncle.
We never heard about Ray before. What can you tell us about Ray?
Ray's still living. He's in his 80s, and he's kind of very handsome man. He's a real ladies man. He's a preacher. He still works. He's he's kind of like what I'll be in a few more years.
That's funny. I was going to say it runs in the family, huh?
So.
See? Hey, Rachel, talk about this. So you didn't do coffee talk for a couple of days, did you? Because you were busy?
Yeah, I was. I went on a little trip, took a little vacation, and it was nice. I went to a wedding in Baltimore. And I'm seeing a guy that lives out that direction, and he invited me, and I didn't know anybody out there, and really cool people, lots of artists and people like musicians and people in the theater, and really, really, really neat people. I had a really good time. And these these people were close to my age and getting married, and they went all out. Like if I were to get married at my age, I can't imagine doing that, but they did. And it was neat. It was beautiful. And, I had this reading with this guy, Mazzotti, a few weeks ago, which was kind of life-changing. And so I have not had a drink of alcohol since, and I wasn't trying. That was not, I was on this friend of mine's podcast, and thank you, Eddie. Later, we're going to have to ask Eddie how he knows Ray, right? That'll be interesting to find out. Anyway, but, I had this reading with Mazzotti, who, one of our guests, Jeremy Van Wert, asked me if I wanted to be on his podcast. And this guy, I didn't even know what to expect, but he cleaned my chakras or aligned my, anyway, since then, like I said, it's just been, I've had so much clarity, and I haven't had a drink, which is kind of a big deal. Cause when COVID started, like having one glass of wine a day turned into like an everyday thing, like, you know what I mean? And I just got to this point where I was like, I kind of wanted to slow it down, and I don't know, I just haven't even thought about it. So I went to this wedding, and I didn't drink out there, still haven't. And
really, that's interesting. I mean, you look good.
Thank you. I feel good. I feel so good. Yeah.
That's important.
We got to have Mazzotti on. Yeah.
I'll let you set it up, and then we'll invite Jeremy on, and because that'll be interesting. If you get a chance, you can go to Jeremy Van Wert, his YouTube channel, and see. It's a very good interview. It's 3 hours long, but it's very good, and it moves quickly. The comments that were going through, Jeremy said they had 150 comments scrolling through while Rachel was on, and he was looking at that, and he couldn't believe all this stuff that was going on. But all the fans who were chiming on this said that she looked clearer, lighter, and I read the comments as I was listening to it back. It was very fascinating.
Yeah, he said when I first my reading was only like 15 minutes, and he's doing this thing where he's asking you to, take a breath and put your hand where your dad had back pain. I mean, he knew that, right? So I'm putting my hand on my back, and he's like, take a breath, and then he's like, hold it, release, and he'd go like 1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1, and then he would move on to the next thing. So like this man had these near-death experiences, and when he came through, he had 2 of them, and when he came through the first time, he was like, I don't remember what it did, but the second one, it gave him the gift of being able to see people's past, present, future. But also when he had this gift, he started studying like how to clear out people's issues in life to move forward and become your best self. So I didn't know any of this, by the way. I just went on this podcast, and I was very, I was a skeptic, and I didn't know what he was doing. And nobody warned me that, like, of all the experiences and what it would be like moving forward. And I tell you, it was life-changing. Masati.
So what's your future hold?
Well, I don't remember what he said, like I said, the reading itself, he was like, something happened to you when you were, 6 or 7, something happened to you, we were 12, something. And then he was like, he talked to me about my current situation with my relationship, you know, kind of, and then he, it was less about Howard, it was less about the actual reading and more about the next day when I woke up. It was
what was being released that you were holding on to that you didn't know.
Yeah, he cleared out cleared my chakra or something. And I didn't know he did this. So the next day I woke up and it was like, when I opened the door, like I'm seeing things. It was like I'd seen, like my whole life I'd been looking at everything on a piece of paper. And then I went outside and everything was different dimensions. And things sounded better. I went to work out, and for the first time, I wasn't worried that I was going to die during this Pilates class. I was thinking about being in the moment. I was feeling the muscles. I was hearing the music. I was like, it just felt so good. And I didn't even think about that day having like my little 5 o'clock bourbon or anything. I just was feeling so good. And I tell you, every day since I've had that reading, I've woken up feeling so good. I just feel, it's like there's less anxiety. There's just more clarity. There's no confusion. There's nothing that I want to, I'm not on a wrong frequency or a vibration where I feel like I want, to have a drink to make it. I don't know. It was good. It was good.
It was good. The comments that were going on live, and as I saw them replayed, were very, very positive. Of like, she looks better. I could see the change. Yeah. They were doing that, and
they were like, look, Jeremy was telling me the next day, he's like, look at that. Look, like after he would do like the breathing, he's like, do this. And he's like, oh, look at her now. And Jeremy said, by the end of it, he said, you look like a child. He said, yeah. They were like, wow, now look at her. She looks like a little girl. And I felt like a little girl. The next day I had this little, I was giggling and I felt this energy, this little, like this, I was just giddy, and I don't know. It was.
You released a lot of stuff that you didn't know you were holding on to.
What, Howard? I'm sorry, Howard, you're cutting out. 15 minutes was, 15-minute read. In fact, I'm going to have this man on Coffee Talk.
Less than an hour.
I know, right? I know. I'm actually going to have him on a guest on my Coffee Talk. He said he would do it. And I'm going to have him read a couple people. So in fact, Eddie might be one of the people that he does a reading for. Eddie, is got PTSD. He served, and he, and I was thinking, wow, I wonder if somebody that has PTSD, and what if he could, if Mazzotti could clear that out, how would that be for people like that? And not just, and then people like, that are suffering from some forms of addictions, like, clearing out the clutter and it just, it's mind blowing. It really is.
It helps over time lessen things, because you're going to slow down the age process. You're going to clear out stuff that you didn't know you were holding on to, because people don't realize a lot of the stuff is 7 generations back, 7 generations forward. And you don't know these things when you're on planet Earth, but they can see these things. So he talked about his jaw. He was in an accident of what happened. He had 2 major things happen, which is why that. And you remember, Rachel, remember how many followers he has on Instagram?
On Instagram, I don't know. It's either Facebook he has over 1 million, and on Instagram he's way up there. He's known all over the world. I've been, and I've become friends with him and his wife since then. They're very nice people, and she sends me music that helps with put me like in a calming, relaxing state, and they're very, very cool people. So,
absolutely.
And he says, listen, this is not me hypnotizing you. I'm not doing anything to you. All I've done is awaken something within yourself, and you're doing this yourself. He's like, it's all about, learning how to be your best self. So I like it.
Absolutely. Rebel, we got to
different direction of what you want.
I'm sorry?
After this, do you have a different direction of what you want in life now?
I do feel a shift.
Do you see yourself going a different direction?
I do feel a shift. I feel a shift into it's instead of staying in one place, you start to see things like, because I do feel like I'm living a better side of myself. I'm more in tune with things that I need to get done every day, and my children, and my goals, and making them happen. And so, follow him, Mazzati, Masati, and XI at the end of it, Mazzati XI.
Yeah.
You should look him up, Howard. I'll introduce you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got about 9 minutes left. So let's talk about this. Rebel, I think we got some photos to share. Yes, we're actually at 90 million views and counting. We're really over that, but I'm going to say this right now. I'm doing everything slow. I'm finishing up on one of the last things that we have. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in to all of our views, whether it's the interviews, Alignable, Easy Way Network, Halanas, YouTube, iTube, all of those things like that, because they all count and they're all very, very good. And we have a lot of great things coming up that I do not announce, but I let you know after they're done. So this is the 60th anniversary of the Misty Olympia, which is the fitness Super Bowl when it comes to the world of fitness. So the world's best athletes are there. They were all accessible, very, very nice. I met a new Brazilian friend. She will be on sometime in the future. Dr. Sunny Andrews out of Miami, Florida. Real doctor, she will be on. That's her dressed up the next day. I've been wanting to have her on the last 3 years. International Sports Hall of Fame induction. So Dr. Robert Goldman was there. So we had Jim Plunkett, Heisman Trophy. You had Misha Tate, UFC champion. They all gave their stories. Dan Solomon is the president of the Mr. Olympia. They spare no expense when it comes to helping the athletes. Phil Heath, 7-time Mr. Olympia. He talked about he didn't know what he was going to do. Rachel, this is Chef Rush.
That guy.
So,
I know him.
So Chef Rush is actually he used to be a White House chef for 3 presidents. He made all the food, and so Linda Steele actually had that. This is Esperella Nunez, so Brazilian, so she won in bikini style of the fitness world. So they're known worldwide. You get them to follow you, their fans will follow you. So you will see them coming on within the next couple months. Because they still have 1 or 2 championships left around the world. Because outside the U.S., the fitness world is huge. Whether it's in Iran, Greece, UK, you name it, it's huge. In the U.S., everybody just knows Arnold and a few other people. But in any sport and anything, and Howard would tell you this, whether you're walking or not, it is about staying in shape. Whether you're going to Pilates or not. So they have all of these things there at the Misty Olympia. It was one of the best things that I've ever been to in the 30-something years that I've been involved in the entertainment. Very nice people, very personable. And again, when you're having things that you're going through, going to the gym is one way to work it out, boxing and all of these things. So all the worlds come together. And it was just spectacular what they put on. They spared no expense. And this was funny, Rachel. You how you have a bar and then you have water that you just bring out. There was nobody at the bar. Everybody was drinking water. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. They actually were running out of so much water that they had to keep bringing in bottles and bottles of water. There was nobody drinking alcohol. I've never seen this stuff before. It was
athletes
hilarious.
Don't drink. Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, you can't take care of your body and do that. It's
It was hilarious. This new couple they go, Brian, you're so nice to us because I got him in. And they go, do you want a drink? I'm like, sure. And we go up and the people go, you're the first customers we had all night. And I'm like, what? I didn't think about that. Yeah, nobody's drinking. And I'm like, that's funny. They're all over there drinking water. Yeah. It was hilarious.
Yep.
So that's what that was. So one of the, I will always go to the Mr. Olympia because there's some of the nicest people there. But what I also really liked was whether you're walking, whether you're just working out, picking up a tire, moving stuff, any movement is better than nothing, right, Howard? Remember when you were telling the story of you walking a lot? All those things are really important. So, Howard, talk about what you want to get done because the year is coming to a close. Really, there's only 5 weeks left of working weeks in the world of entertainment and really in business. That's it. The year is coming, so we have to finish the year strong. Howard, what do you want to do for finishing the year strong? What's your goals?
Actually, I want to finish up my home. I've worked on it all my life. I'm on a mission to get all the walls finished and get it where all I have to do is spend time cleaning it more. But I just want to get it fixed up. So, because I mean, I'm 71. How much longer do I have? I just want to get it done.
You got a long time, Howard, because you're in shape.
So,
you don't drink, you're in shape. You got a long time. You'll be good.
Yeah.
Howard, say this. What do you have? What's a piece of inspiration that you have for the audience?
Inspiration?
Mm-hmm.
You mean, I actually, my own self is my own inspiration, because I have what I tell my wife, there's Howard Wiggins wannabe. I have a lot of friends and stuff that want to be me. And I'm like, and that kind of makes me happy because I like being me. And so it's what I want to do. So I like to inspire people. I like to, even at work, because, you know, I dress like this all the time. I wore this to work today. So people say, well, let's have Howard Day, you know, where everybody dresses up, you know, so things like that, because you don't know how many people you touch in your life. I mean, everybody you meet, you make an impression on. And since I was in furniture for so long, I've known people that I'll meet 30 years after I sold them something that's coming from my name. It's like, who would you remember who sold you something 30 years ago? And let's say a really good impression. And that's undoubtedly what I do.
And so, Vanessa, you know, what Roger's going through, the things that you're doing when people call, being personal, those things are very, very helpful. Small business, when you can pick up the phone and get the inventor, and we can pick up the phone and get a young woman like you who knows about all these things, the questions that Rachel was asking, that's personal service that you do not get anymore, right?
That's right. You wouldn't believe how many times I hear somebody say hello and I say hello back and they say, "Oh, thank God you speak English." You know, they're expecting to get, you know, some foreigner in some country that is trying to, answer their questions about a wood stove, but they get, you know, somebody in the United States that knows what they're talking about. I mean, I was a wood stove virgin, but I write the owner's manuals. Roger is a very good teacher. And those owner's manuals have to be written for the United States and Canada to UL specifications. So they're pretty detailed. And I had to learn a lot to do that. Like I said, Roger's a good teacher. Yeah.
And talk about where people can get these from.
Well, look at our website, Unforgettable Fire, LLC.com. Unforgettable has 2 T's. When you call the toll-free number, do your homework, look things over, call the toll-free number, odds are you're going to get me on the phone. I had somebody call last night about 6 o'clock at night. I spent 2 hours with them before she decided she was not going to buy just one stove. She was going to buy 2. And I'm happy to do it. And we're going to figure out what chimney parts she needs. And we're going to get her taken care of. And we'll be shipping 2 stoves to her for 2 different structures soon. So, yeah, it's all very hands-on. We don't sell in a big box store. Can't buy it on Amazon. You only can get them through Unforgettable Fire, LLC.com.
And you will get a real human, and it's American made.
Always.
Yeah.
Good
Always
thing to have in a disaster too. Like, you know,
well, for every day, you know, I certainly understand why people like their conveniences of natural gas and electric heat. But I can tell you there is nothing like wood heat from a real wood stove. And once you've had it,
There's no going back.
You're not going back because the quality heat is so much better.
And it's very clean.
Very clean. Our stoves are very clean and they're very efficient and they can fit in odd little places that no other wood stoves, like RVs and tiny houses and corners of 3-story McMansions. And
we always lose power in Houston and in the winter, and something like that would be great for me. I to have in my house, you know, because I remember one year we lost power and we had no heat, nothing, and we put blankets around the fireplace, like hanging from the wall, so that we could just sit in that one little area.
Mhm.
But something like this would be really nice to have, definitely, for situations.
You just never know what life is going to throw at you. These people in
Mhm.
North Carolina, how many hurricanes was Roger in over the years?
Mhm.
Nothing
Mhm.
like this. Some of those
Uh-uh.
people don't even have a home to heat
Mhm.
right now. They're living
Mm.
in tents in the mountains, and it's 20 degrees, I hear,
Oh
there
my
right now.
God.
But if you have a home, you
Mhm.
know, why not have a wood stove as a backup, even if you don't want to do it all, burn
Mhm.
it all the time. It'll always be there as long as you got wood. In a
Mm-hmm.
disaster like North Carolina or a tornado in the Midwest or whatever, you got plenty of dry wood.
Yeah. All right, Rachel, real quick, you got 30 seconds. Give me social media links and quick word of inspiration. Go for it.
Okay, so Rachel Ann Roberts on Facebook, Rachel Roberts Recipes on Instagram, and I had a 16-year-old that was watching me live on TikTok ask me what kind of advice I would give him, and I said just enjoy it because it goes fast. So have a good time.
Mm-hmm. And with that, I want to thank everybody because Jim Bannon didn't come on. He's texting me right now. Terri wasn't able to make it on. Cyndie Wade wasn't able to make it on. Tasha's doing a music video. So I always say this to everybody. Thank you for your support. Thank you for chiming in the movie reviews and more. And have a good night tonight. A better day tomorrow. You see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world definitely needs it. That's for sure. I'm Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. And we'll see you next week.